Next. Hi guys, I'm back with another video, and today this is gonna be like a mixture. Today it's sort of TBR for November, my November TBR, and what my wrap up for October. I did not do a TBR for October. Well, I technically did it, I just never ended up editing it, so I could never post it. But I decided to do one for today. There's gonna be a lot of books here. In October, I think I only read 3 books, so I did not go for my October TBR like I thought I would, which I wasn't surprised by. But these are all the books I'm planning on. Maybe I'm probably not going to get through even half of these, but they're just the books I'm planning on reading in November, and most of them are still part of my October TBR, and I have talked about them before, I think, so I'm gonna go for them a bit faster, and then I'm gonna reach a point where I'm gonna get to my new books that I've bought within the past couple of weeks, and those I like explain a bit in more detail. Books, this is actually a recently bought. It's not going to be going in order because I don't have shelves at the moment, so I've just had to stack my books. So I'm not going to like reach all the way down to get them in specific order. I'm just going to be rattling them off. One of the books I will be trying to get around to at some point, and I actually am really excited to get around to, is The First to Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I read the first book and I absolutely loved it, and I want to read the second. It's a bit bigger and it's hardback, obviously, and it's in hardback, and I absolutely loved it. I saw it at the store and I thought I picked it up. If you've read, I'm pretty sure most people have read First to Die at the End, but basically this is the prequel to that book, where we follow the first time that Deathcast is ever launched, and instead of following 2 people that are in Deathcast and 2 people that are going to die on that day, we follow one person who's going to die, and we follow him falling in love with some other person who also signed up for Deathcast, except he didn't get the call. So I feel like this one's gonna be even more heartbreaking than the first, because now it's like one lives and one doesn't, so yeah, very, very sad. Next one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I recently got the other 2 books in the series. I'm pretty sure I've talked about that book in one of my TBRs, but I also got the next 2 books, so I can't wait to read this series. I've been in a really serious mood. Like, I've just been searching new series that I could read, because I just want to get into like a really long series like Harry Potter and City of Bones. I just want to get into like an expanding series like that, so I've been trying to get into series. So I got the rest of these books, and I also got some new fantasy series that I'm ready to try, so yeah, can't wait. Next is It Starts With Us. Well, technically, next is It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. I read the first book and I got the second. I absolutely loved the first book, like nearly made me cry at some point. And I got the second, which is a lot shorter than the first one, I think. And this one follows, oh, I honestly forgot his name. This one follows, Atlas's perspective, and I can't wait because I love Atlas, and I am planning to reread It Ends With Us when I go to read this, because I love that book. It's like a 5-star read for me. It was my new 5-star of 2020. I hadn't read a 5-star book in a while, and then I read It Ends With Us and it was like instant 5-star for me, so I can't wait to read this. I've seen many people do vlogs on this, so I probably will do a vlog on it as well, and I can't wait. People say that it is a bit disappointing, but I feel like it's a bit of a thing, because it's like, if you don't like Atlas, then it'd be a bit disappointing. If you do, you might like it. But I have like a sort of middle opinion with Atlas, so I'll see how I go with this book. But I really love the first one, so I really hope I love this one too, and the covers are just also so beautiful. I just love them. And yeah, can't wait to read this. This is a recent one that I literally got maybe 2 days ago, and I've been looking at it for a while, but I just never bought it until I saw it in the store. I was like, why not? And I bought A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime by Monica Murphy. This is like a famous TikTok book. It's like been all over the place by now. I think the hype's died down a little bit, but when like it was very big hype, I looked it up and I was going to buy it. Just never got around to the time, but I decided to buy it. It follows a girl named Ren and a boy named Crew. Crew is like the rich bad boy who like doesn't care about anything, and Ren is the good girl who always gets good grades, and they end up falling for each other. So you know what this is going, classic tale of like bad boy and good girl. And I think this is a Grumpy Sunshine book, so I can't wait to read it because I've missed those books and it's quite long, and the cover again looks amazing, so I can't wait to read this. The next one is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. I am currently reading The Hate You Give for the second time. I'm rereading it while also annotating it. So this is most likely going to be the second book. This is going to be the next book I read in November, just because it's the second book in the series, and the reason why I'm reading The Hate You Give is so I can read this one. I can't wait because Maverick, Star's dad, is one of my favorite characters in the series. He's just so loving, and I love him. He's very inspiring, and I can't wait to read this book. And I'm hoping I'm not disappointed. I don't know, we'll see. Next is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I saw this classic copy, it's the Penguin Classics copy. I saw this at a store for like very cheap, might I add, and I was like, those editions look so beautiful, I have to have one. And this is probably the first classic I'm ever going to read since Wuthering Heights. The only classic I've ever read is Wuthering Heights, and I read that in school and I really liked it, so I bought my own copy, and I did start reading it, but I don't think I ever finished it. But I always wanted to finish it, but I never did. But Wuthering Heights is still one of my favorite classics, if you don't count children's classics, because I have read Alice in Wonderland. But if you're talking classics, then this is like the second classic I'm reading ever since I read Wuthering Heights, and I honestly can't wait because everybody talks so much about Jane Austen, how she's a really great writer, and how Pride and Prejudice is one of her famous works, one of her most famous works, I think. So I thought, why not start with this one, and then if I like it, I could get like the whole collection. And I'm planning on getting more Penguin Classics editions of classics like this. For example, the Wuthering Heights one I am planning on getting because I love that book, and I'm sure I will love this one too. It's just amazing. I can't wait to read it. It just looks so good. The next is also a fantasy, and well, I think it's a fantasy. If it's not fantasy, it's dystopian, but it's close enough for me. It's a series. It's the Scythe series. I don't know what the series is called, but I'm just gonna call it the Scythe series. And we've got Scythe, Thunderhead, and The Toll, which is the biggest book. And I've been for years I've been hearing people rave about the series, about how it's so good, about how it's just amazing. And so I never picked it up. I was always like semi-interested, but I never was that interested in it. But one day I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it. I want more fantasy dystopian reads. I want to go back into that Hunger Games, Harry Potter era. So I thought I'd get it, see if it'd give me that vibe. And from what I know about it, in this world, I'm pretty sure you guys know a lot because it's literally been everywhere for like years. But in this world, basically death isn't a thing. You can't die. The only way for you to die is if you get gleaned by these things called scythes. Those things on the cover, I'm pretty sure. And basically they glean you. That's the only way for you to die. And then we're following two people who have to sign up to become scythes and go through all the challenges to become a scythe, basically, to become these protectors of the kingdom, whatever. They have to go through all these trials to become a scythe. Trials to becoming a scythe is that one of them will have to glean the other, meaning one of them will have to kill the other, and I'm pretty sure they're like best friends. Maybe this is the best friends to lover. Maybe. I hope there's like a best friends to lover, because I haven't read many of those. My favorite, and it's not really a favorite of mine, but that's because I just haven't read much. But I honestly can't wait to read this. I'm really hyped up. There might be a vlog coming out this series as well as the It Starts With Us series, so I can't wait. Next is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I'm not going to talk much about this one because I've already said stuff about it, and also because everybody knows this book. it's basically about a Hollywood actress, I think, telling her life of her 7 husbands. And I think there's like, I think she also falls in love with the woman in this book. She's bisexual, so I honestly can't wait to see this dynamic. It should be amazing. Next is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. Now, I tried reading The Love Hypothesis. I did like it. I liked the chemistry. I read it on my iPad, I think, but then I think I stopped reading it just because I got a bit bored. I liked the chemistry, I liked everything, but basically it was the classic trouble of like, I liked the whole chemistry, but then as soon as the couple got together, it got a bit boring for me, and I was like, nah, and I just DNF'd it because it just got boring to me after they got together. But I thought, that's unfair to Ali Hazelwood, so I saw this in stores and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pick it up and give her another chance, give her another shot. And so I got Love on the Brain, which is about people that work at NASA, and obviously they fall in love, basically the love hypothesis thing. And yeah, people, a guy and a girl, they both work at NASA, they fall in love, and yeah, love the pink cover so much. That's one of the other reasons why I bought it, because the cover in this is so much cuter. I think this is so much a better cover than the Love Hypothesis one. The Love Hypothesis one was cute, but this is just amazing. So yeah, I got this and I can't wait to give her another shot. And one of the books I will try to knock off in November for my October TBR is Verity by Colleen Hoover. As you know, I was just talking about Colleen Hoover. It Started Us is the only book I've ever read of Colleen Hoover, and so I thought, I saw this in stores and I thought I might give it a shot, because I know that this was really famous too and everybody found it. Everybody said it was really, really creepy, and it's honestly quite short. It's very short, so I thought I would pick it up and read it because it is short, and I thought I could read it in November, get the creepy vibes and stuff out of the way before Christmas. So I thought I'd read it because people say very good things about this book. They say that it's very creepy but very good. And of course, I can't go into December without reading Nothing More to Tell by Karen M. McManus. I love her books. I've read every single one of her books from her first debut book, One of Us Is Lying. I read it when it came out, and then every single book that came out since then, I've read them all when they came out. I've been through her this whole time, through her journey. I've been with her through this whole journey of the first time she released a book up till now, and I can't wait to read it. I love how most of her books, I think it's like only one book that hasn't got sprayed edges, but I love how all of her books have sprayed edges to match the titles. I just love it and I can't wait. This is about a woman, I think, who she works on a radio show, and she's doing a radio documentary, a true crime documentary, I think. And she decides to do a true crime documentary of investigating a murder that happened at her school where her teacher was murdered, and she starts to suspect that her old best high school friend had something to do with the murder, so she has to try and figure out who did it and if her best friend from back then was actually involved. And it sounds very interesting, like all of her stories do, so I can't wait. Now, this is definitely one book that I am going to be reading in November. This is probably the first book of the Halloween themed books that I am going to be reading, and that is Cemetery Boys, because this is specifically meant to be read on Halloween, so I have to read it before Christmas. I just have to. It's literally called Cemetery Boys. It's about magic. I just have to read it, and I can't wait to read it. I don't know if I've talked about this or not, but it's about a boy who's a witch, and to prove himself to his family, he tries to bring back his dead cousin. But mistakenly, he brings back the ghost of he brings back his high school's resident bad boy. Apparently he died and he brought him back. And I think they fall in love. I don't know. By the synopsis, it doesn't really give much away, but I'm assuming that some feelings ensue. But basically, the dilemma is that he has to put him back into his grave before his family find out what he has done. That instead of bring back his cousin, he brought back him. So yeah, I can't wait to read it. It sounds very much like a fun ride, very much like a palate cleanser just to like read, and I can't wait. It sounds very fun, and this is by the same person who wrote Lost in the Netherwoods, and I've had that book in my Amazon basket for a while, and I never knew that they were the same person who wrote these books. But yeah, I can't wait to read this, and then potentially, if I like it, read Lost in Edwards too, because Peter Pan is one of my favourite childhood stories. So yeah. No More People by Sally Rooney. I was planning on reading this in the autumn because it felt like a very autumnal book, and I can still read it in the autumn, and I definitely am going to read it. So this is going to be one of the books. Obviously it's not a spooky book, it's about two people in a relationship. I'm pretty sure everybody knows what the book's about, but I can't wait to read it because I do want to try some Sally Rooney. Everybody raves about her and I've never tried, so I thought, why not just get all the big authors out of the way and try some of their books. And I'll start with this one because I feel like it's one of the most famous books that she has. And it feels like a very autumn book. I hope it doesn't like break me, but I don't know. It feels like it will just by the cover. Some people have very mixed comments about this book. Some people say that it's a bit boring, that there's no plot. Some people say that it's a very good book. But I do know it's very character based. I don't know. I'm more a person that likes plot rather than characters. So I don't know how that's gonna go, but I hope I like it anyway. So we'll see. Next on the band of creepy books is Alice by Christina Henry. This is an Alice in Wonderland retelling, I think, and I love Alice in Wonderland. I've read it before. Obviously, I've read it before, and this is about Alice. She is trapped in an insane asylum and she ends up escaping, and basically Wonderland apparently is like a terrible place to live in this story, and there's a big evil person who's like making like everything bad or everybody's life hell. She goes on a mission to find him, and I think it's this bunny. I think like the bunny's like bad, and she goes on a mission to find the bunny and fight the bunny and stop all the evil and the imprisonment that's going on. I don't really know much. The synopsis didn't give that much away, but I can't wait to read it to find out. I might do a vlog on this, but I haven't really figured out yet which books I'm going to do a full vlog on, so we'll see. The Secret History is one that I'm also planning on reading in the fall, just because it's dystopian, and I feel like dystopian is a very fall vibe. I don't know why, just to me it is. I can't wait to read The Secret History along with the Alice 6, because those are like, I picked them up specifically, I picked them up together because I was like, I have to read them both in the month of, like somewhere around autumn. I have to read them both because I want that whole vibe. I want to feel that vibe that everybody feels, so I can't wait to feel the dark academia vibe. Next is Peter Pan. I got this at a store that wasn't even a bookstore, but I saw this. I got this at Taking Max, I think, and I saw this and I was like, I love Peter Pan. Well, I've never read the book, but I love the movie, and I was like, I have to get this just because this is beautiful. I kind of love it. It's a Bath treasury of children's classics, if you wanted to know. And it's absolutely beautiful. Like the cover, it feels just such like a classic, and then we have got sprayed edges, like dark green sprayed edges, and it's even got some pictures inside. And I was like just blown away. When I opened this book, I was absolutely blown away, and I just had to get it because I love the movie. And it also has the little blue ribbon, so you don't have to use a bookmark if you don't want to. And I can't wait to read this because I love the children's stories, and I can't wait to watch the film after I read this because I love Peter Pan. If there was one children's world where I'd want to live, it's probably Peter Pan and of course Alice in Wonderland, but Peter Pan the most because I love pirates. This is where my love of pirates come from, actually, Peter Pan. And I absolutely love it. I can't wait to read it at some point. Next is the Atlas 6, which I just mentioned while I was holding The Secret History, which this is another book that I want to read. It's in autumn, and I can't wait to get around to this. This is probably going to be one of my next couple reads. Like after I read The Concrete Rose, I might move on to this because I've been craving some fantasy autumn reads, and this is honestly perfectly up the alley, so I can't wait to read it. So I can't wait to read this. It is a bit chunky, so it's a bit intimidating, but I think I'll be able to do it, so yeah. This is a series I actually bought today, and honestly, I bought it solely based on a whim. They were very cheap, and I just had to get them. It's a 5-book series of Percy Jackson, the Percy Jackson series. That's what I bought today. It consists of Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters, Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse, Percy Jackson and the Battle of the Labyrinth, and Percy Jackson and the Last Olympian. Personally, I love these covers. I love the colours and everything that's going on with these covers. I really do. I really do love those covers. And I bought them solely because I have never read Percy Jackson. And I've read Harry Potter, I've read The Hunger Games, I've read Divergent Book 1, but then I didn't really like it, so I didn't finish the series. Just because I couldn't be bothered to finish the series. It's not that I didn't like the book, it just was nothing special. I like the movie Divergent more than I like the book. But I've read mainly all the classics, all the classic dystopian reads, except for Percy Jackson. And everybody raves about Percy Jackson. Like, if you like Harry Potter, then usually people like Percy Jackson. And if they don't, it's either Percy Jackson and Harry Potter always in competition. I just really want to read it and see what the hype's about. Why everybody likes it. I've watched the movies of Percy Jackson, and the movies were really good. I really liked the movies. It was very well made, and I love the movies, so I can't wait to read the books and maybe rewatch the movies. I will definitely be doing a vlog while reading this series. Like, that's definitely happening. That's definitely happening. I'm definitely doing that, and hopefully it will like take me down memory lane and take you guys down memory lane too. So that's basically it. That's most of the books I'm going to read in November. Obviously, I'm probably not going to be getting to most of them. My main priority are the Halloween type books where it's Alice, Cemetery Boys, all those books. Those are the main focus. Then after, I would go on to the other books that I mentioned where they're a little less Halloween based, but they're still full vibes. And then, yeah, I'll see where I'll go from there for December. That's my TBR. And now onto my October wrap up. Probably should have started with that first, but now for the books I've read, I can't find all of them because this room is such a mess. So I've only got one, which is the one I literally finished a couple of days ago, but I'll mention them all and hopefully put the pictures in here. And it is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned it in the videos, but this is a reread. I have read it before on the iPad, and this is my second time reading it, and I loved it. I annotated it while reading. That was the process, and I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. I think I gave it 5 stars the first time I read it, but it's gone down a bit just because I realised it's not like my favourite book of all time. It's not a thing where I'm going to reread this every single summer. It is a great book. I really liked it, but now that I've annotated it, I don't feel a need to reread it again, at least not for a very, 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 very long while. I feel the need to reread this like I do with Harry Potter or City of Bones, where I think about rereading that series like all the time. The only reason why I don't is because I remind myself that I've still got so many books to finish. And I rated it 4 stars. I loved it. I think this book honestly should be studied in schools everywhere, just by its descriptive writing. It's got such descriptive writing. There will be a vlog coming for this. I just haven't edited yet, but watch out for the vlog because there is such descriptive writing in this. And I think I read a passage of this book and of the descriptive writing, and it's just amazing. If you've read this book, you know what I'm on about. The writing style is amazing. The author, her writing is out of this world, and I can't wait to potentially read more of the author's books in the future. There was a lot more funny moments, I remember. I love the chemistry between the characters. I love the plot twist. I remember the plot twist, but I still loved it the second time round. I love the chemistry between the characters. I love the characters as individuals. I loved everything about this book. It was so good. The book before this that I read was A Court of the Vampire Queen. Now, I don't know what this book is, like I said, because my room's a mess, and all the books are literally stacked up all over the place. So I do not know where it has gotten off to. Hopefully I find it because I love that book. It was a 4 out of 5 stars for me. All of these books are 4 out of 5 stars, but I've only read 3, but all of these books were 4 out of 5 stars. I loved it. I loved the characters, the whole 3 people, like the whole relationships, the whole polyamorous relationship. If you're looking for a book about polyamorous relationships, I would, if you're looking for a fantasy book, never mind, about a polyamorous relationship, that I know I would read this. It's about a girl who, her father is basically a dick, and he sells her to this vampire named Malichi. Bear in mind, she's half human and half vampire. But in this world, which I found so interesting, the magic system in this world really interested me. It wasn't too complicated, but it also wasn't like a thing of not having much substance. The magic system is basically, there's vampires in this world, but these vampires have powers, as in like each vampire bloodline has a special power of its own. But basically, she's born half vampire and half human, and she doesn't have any powers, strangely. Everybody else does have powers, but she doesn't. She's like one of the only of her kind that's been born with no powers. Basically, her father's disgraced by her, and he wants an heir to the kingdom. He's basically the king of the vampires, and there's many different bloodlines, so he wants a way to control these bloodlines. He sends her to this vampire Malichi. I'm dragging this out so much, I just love this book. The girl gets sent to the vampire Malichi, and obviously she at first doesn't like him because she was basically sent there for him to feed on, and she's basically like a blood bag to him, and also to sire an heir. So she hates him at first, but then they grow, obviously, they're in this massive house together, they grow to like each other and grow to become friends, and they grow to fall in love with each other. And they decide to team up to try and take her father down and have her become the queen and take back the throne. Then, two of Malichi's friends end up tagging along, and basically, stuff happens, and yeah, they all team up to take down her dad, and it's amazing. I loved it. I have never went through a book faster. Bear in mind, I've been in a reading slump for maybe the past couple of months. That was the book that got me out of my little reading slump, at least for a little while. As in, like, that book I went through so fast, and it was quite a big book. It was like 400 pages, I think, and I went through it really, really fast. I can't believe I even did that, because when I was reading a book like Midnight Library is like maybe 200 pages, maybe 300 pages, a very, very short book. It dragged on. I took so long to read that book, but with this one, I literally read it in a couple of days, and I was astounded. So it got me out of my reading slump a bit, just because I'm a person, I love fantasy, so fantasy books for me go by really quickly. Some people say that fantasy books take a long time to read because the plot and the world building is like very time consuming. For me, it's not. I can go through a fantasy book so quick, no matter how big it is. And I loved it. It's 4 stars for me. It wasn't 5 stars just because the only reason why it wasn't 5 stars, I think, is just because I was in a reading slump. I was still in a bit of a reading slump while reading this book. This book did get me out of it, but I didn't think I was like, oh my god, my favorite book ever. It's not like a new favorite. It's just a very fun time book. If you want to have a fun time, just let loose, relax, not think too much about the world, I would read A Court of the Vampire Queen. If you just want to have a good time and want to see people fall in love. Bear in mind, if you don't like open door romances, do not read this book. This book has some very graphic, explicit scenes in it. If you don't like that, I don't recommend reading it. To me, this is literally, to me, like 50 Shades of Grey, but imagine vampires. 50 Shades of Grey with 3 vampires instead of the grey guy and Anna. That's what I imagine like. So if you don't like open door, don't read this, because like literally nearly in every single chapter there's an open door scene. I didn't mind it, to be honest. I was fine with it. At a point I did find it was a bit excessive, but yeah, every single chapter there's an open door scene. If you don't like it, I really don't recommend rereading it. Or if you don't like excessive explicit sex scenes, if you don't like excessive scenes like that, then don't read it also, because it's literally nearly in every chapter, and nearly in every chapter it like happens twice. It's literally back to back, so yeah, it can get a bit tiring. But the thing is, even though there was so many explicit scenes, it still had a lot of plot. That's why it was such a big book, I think, because it had a lot of those scenes, but it still had a plot. Like, it still told a story. It wasn't just like all open door scenes and then no plot to it. No, it did have a plot, in my opinion. That's why, to me, I didn't mind it, because the plots were still there. And like I said, I'm more of a plot person than I am a character person. Like, the characters, I wouldn't say they were amazing, but the plot was amazing, so I'm all for it. And yeah, just go read it, because I'm done. I can talk about this book all day. The next is Midnight Library, which I read before that. And it's about a girl who ends up, she's going through some stuff. Basically, her life sucks, and she ends up committing suicide. But it's not technically about suicide. She ends up committing suicide because she is very depressed. So if you don't like that, then don't read it. The scene is not explicit. It's not an explicit scene. You don't even like see anything. It's just you see the letter and that's it. It's not explicit, but it does talk about that. And basically, instead of dying, what happens here, this is kind of like a mystical book. It's not fantasy, but it's got mystical elements. It's a contemporary book with some mystical elements, which I like this book. Basically, kind of like We Were Liars at the end, how there were all the things. Yeah, it's kind of like, it just has a little mystical element in there. Basically, when she dies, she goes to this sort of limbo called the Midnight Library. Basically, she wakes up in the library and she's in a sort of limbo, and she basically gets to try out different versions of her life and see which one she would want. Like, basically, she just gets to live alternative lives. This book is the exact opposite of A Court of the Vampire Queen. Like, if you want a fun time, let go, adventure, vampire romance, read that. If you want a serious book that talk about the meaning of life, then I would read The Midnight Library. They're two very different books. I read them, like, yeah, they're two very, very different books. That's maybe why it took me so long to read The Midnight Library. Two very different. If you want a very serious book, I suggest you read this. It's basically about the meaning of life and like living a life when you don't like the life you have. Basically, it's basically just about the meaning of life. To me, that's how I interpreted it, at least. And I rated this book 4 stars. I don't know if it should go down to 3 stars. I'm changing my rating. I rated it 4 stars, I think, on Goodreads, but I'm changing it now to 3.5, just because, thinking now back about it, the book was a very impactful book. Like, it had very much meaning, but like, it had very much meaning, but it wasn't like, it didn't impact me that much. Maybe just because maybe of my reading slump, maybe, I don't know, maybe I just didn't like the book. Maybe it's just because of my reading slump, I don't know. It just didn't impact me that much. It was a very meaningful story. It was a very lovely story. That's why I rated it 4 stars at first, because the quotes in that book broke your heart. But the only reason why it's just a bit iffy is just because to me, it had little plot. Where The Court of the Vampire Queen had very much plot, The Midnight Library didn't have much plot. That's why I'm rating it 3.5, because it's a book that's more character-based and meaning-based rather than plot-based. So this is a very character-driven book. It focuses on one character. Yes, like, also, if you don't like books that only focuses on one character, then I wouldn't get this, because this only focuses on one character for the majority of the book, obviously, because she's in a limbo, and it's just her and her guardian angel, so to speak, and it's just them two. So if you like a book with multiple characters and like characters bouncing off each other, then this isn't really that. It's more of a meaning of life, philosophical, why can't I say that word? It's more meaning of a life type book, character driven book, where it's not really plot heavy, it's character heavy and like questioning your life, questioning the meaning of things. So if you like that, I definitely think you should read it. It is really good. And that's basically all. So look out for those vlogs. They will be coming soon if I edit them. And so yeah, see ya. Bye.